Hello there, and welcome to a special episode of the SEO Ranking podcast called the SEO Agency Rollercoaster. Picture this: you're on a roller coaster ride, but instead of dizzying loops and gravity-defying drops, it's all about the turbulent world of SEO agencies. We're going at full speed into the trenches of SEO agencies and pros to shine a spotlight on the daily hurdles, hiccups, and high fives that come with the territory. You must be this tall to ride this blend of real talk and a dash of humor and a whole lot of insider insights. So if you're into keeping your finger on the pulse of SEO, hit that subscribe button. Stay in the loop, stay informed, and maybe crack a smile or two along the way. My name is Andrew Zarudny, and I'm part of the marketing team over at SEO Ranking and your co-host on this adventure. I'm all buckled up to roll with the ups and downs of SEO together with my co-host, Chris Simmance, the co-founder of the OMG Center, your digital agency growth accelerator. Welcome, Chris. Great to have you with us.
Hello. I now regret suggesting that we call it SEO Agency Rollercoaster, if I'm honest. I don't like roller coasters. I'm scared of them.
I've been a fan ever since I was little.
Well, I'm strapping on at the back. I don't mind if you're at the front. For those of you who don't know me, I am the host of And We Have an Office Dog podcast. I run the OMG Center. We focus on accelerating digital agencies' growth. That's the sales pitch bit over. I'm really pleased to be on this podcast. This is a sort of fun one, which I've really wanted to do for a really long time, where we can actually talk about like interesting agency stuff, bit of a laugh along the way. Really pleased to have as our first ever guest, Hannah Carthy / Hannah Thorpe. And we'll talk about that very briefly in a second, because you kind of ruined your knowledge graph a little bit recently. Hannah is the managing director at Verkeer, a search agency based in London. I'm going to let you do a nice plug of the agency ever so shortly, Hannah, but we've known each other for a good while now. In your previous days at white.net, and found you're incredibly good at SEO, but I would wager, and I'm sorry to say this, you're not as good at SEO as you are running an agency. I've seen what you like running an agency, and you're bloody good. So that's why you're here. Hello, Hannah.
Chris, that's possibly the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I mean, I have been warned. Vicky, my operations director and our good friend, and my wife, said to me before I started recording, be really nice. I know it's supposed to be fun, but be really nice. So would you like to give a little bit of an intro to yourself and the agency?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in digital agencies now for about 10 years. My focus has always been kind of SEO and driving growth for client. And then I realized what I was passionate about was actually how agencies work. I think I would be rubbish at running a real business, like a proper one, but an agency business is so much fun to run and something that I love to do. At Verkeer, for those of you that aren't fluent in Dutch, Verkeer means traffic, and that is what we do basically. We will generate your website traffic and hopefully your business revenue, be that through SEO, paid search, paid social, consultancy, whatever is going to kind of help your bottom line is really what we're here for.
That's awesome. And as the name suggests, we're here to talk about the roller coaster life of running an SEO agency. The way I like to put it is that, like a roller coaster, it's has its ups and downs, its twists and turns, but it's champagne on the way up in an agency, and it's punches in the face on the way down. You know that it's lovely on the way up, but you definitely know if it's a roller coaster, there will be some punches in the face and twists and turns. My first question, though, is not about SEO. It's, do you like roller coasters, and should we get on it?
That is the worst thing you've
I've always wanted to be able to use special effects and sound effects and stuff. Let me have my fun.
Wow.
So do you like roller coasters, Hannah?
I absolutely hate roller coasters. And one of my lovely team members just suggested that perhaps that's why I like running an agency. I can't get the adrenaline elsewhere, so I have to run the agency instead.
Did you know that agency life was riding a roller coaster before you got into it?
So I started in agencies, like my first job was an agency, and I was quite junior there, like obviously. I actually Googled what is SEO in the car park of my job interview. So like, I didn't know what I was doing. And I definitely saw the roller coaster from afar. But that agency I was at was really good. Like, they really protected the juniors. And even though it was a small team, as a junior, you didn't feel the roller coaster. But as I watched it, I was like, nah, I want to be on that. Like, that's what I want to be doing and be involved in. Like, I like the chaos.
Yeah. Some of us love the chaos, don't we? But I think that there's an element of being able to try and control that roller coaster a little bit. As with all good podcasts, there is research that needs to be done in advance, and Andrew is fantastic at that. He's been onto Reddit and has found an agency story Reddit thread. And I think that's a good place for us to start with a few points and a few questions. So what have you got there, Andrew?
I found a thread when an SEO asked, what is the biggest pain point of SEO specialists and agency owners? And this actually sparked a big discussion. And I think this is a great opportunity to discuss the challenges SEO professionals face today, as well as throw in our own 2 cents. So some of the points that stood out for me were the ones that were insightful in terms of biggest pain points for agencies or SEOs are miracle platforms that promise one thing and do another, invoice payment delays, challenges in client acquisition. There's also problems with educating your clients on SEO, complexities related to organizing just the processes. There's also a lot of different tools on the market, not necessarily built by the people who claim that, for example, an SEO tool may not be necessarily built by SEO professionals. There's also problems with centralizing information, cloud storage, just project management, Slack, so these kinds of things. The problems are related to establishing processes within the company. There's also like a lot of different agencies complain about technical constraints. For example, there may be an issue on the website that is slowing it down for like 12 seconds, but it's not being fixed from over a year. And there's also typical problems with hiring people, making them stick around, having a good environment for that. There's always Google updates that always mess up not just websites, but the promises that agencies make. So a result is coming in like 3 months. No, it's Google thinks differently. And there are also some minor things like finding new clients is becoming more difficult. Cold emailing is losing its effectiveness and advertising costs are increasing. So I just basically listed all the bullet points that we've distilled from this thread. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on this.
Well, I know all of these pains, having run 2 agencies, both equally well and equally badly at times. An awful lot of these are almost, some of them are growing pains in agencies. You learn as you go. Others you can't control, like tools and things like that are external to you. I do think that there's a few here that would be quite interesting to go through in a bit of depth rather than the whole list, primarily because I'm speaking to agency owners pretty much every single day in our capacity as accelerators, but also in general at events and things like that. And there's a few pieces that I think popping up an awful lot more in the last, say, 6 months than previously. First one, I think, is miracle platforms that end up being a little bit of a disappointment, especially after you've just dedicated a year's budget into them or something. I know that with AI and things like that, there's an awful lot of things popping up now. But Hannah, is there like a tool which, except for email, that you use like every day religiously and you would never walk away from it?
So I would say from an SEO perspective, no. From an agency perspective, yes. So the most important tools we have that are, I guess, the miracle tools are Monday.com, LastPass, and Dropbox.
Yeah.
If we didn't have those, we would not exist. I think in particular, you see platforms like Monday.com, like we do our time tracking in Monday where the tasks are managed. Like you're not logging into multiple places. And then now Monday have got a sales like pipeline tool as well, which takes the place of things like Pipedrive and that sort of tool. So consolidating into that type of miracle tool, great. Consolidating into one of those SEO tools that does every single thing possible and optimizes your site and automates everything and scores it all, maybe less so. That's where we say you need a mix and think about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of tools that have come through in the last few years, which, whilst having very good aims, actually do only one thing that they sell out of the many things very well. And it does take a little while for them to get their feet. But there's a few times, I think, where a little bit, Andrew alluded to, that you can tell very easily these tools have been built by a developer versus, nothing against you developers, you're all lovely people, most of them, when you come out of your dark rooms. But they are often built by developers, and you can tell that they're not built with the ability for multiple people in an agency to understand or to be able to be client-facing and things like that. Have you faced any of those kinds of pains? I know that you're involved in a tool at the minute. I'll let you decide what you talk about there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the biggest mistake of agencies and agency owners and the teams delivering the work is probably to like not speak to the tools about your problems. So the tool that I'm involved in, which is called Search Sketch, that does like visualizations of the first page of Google and helps you look at size of results. Like, it's built by a dev team. And I'm hoping they never see this because they will be very mad if I say this, but I don't think they know what SEO is sometimes. Like, we will have hour-long conversations about like, why does it matter? What's a TLD? Like things like that. And I'm like, oh God, this is scary. But I think they've got such a great set of skills to be able to build a tool in the first place.
Yeah.
So actually you need the collaboration. And I'd say even tools that I'm not personally involved in, if you give feedback, quite often you get something better and they build things. So like we've given feedback multiple times to a whole range of SEO tools, a whole range of project management tools, and they've tweaked, they've adapted, and they've managed to find a workaround for us. But I think so often we just sit there and moan and go, well, the tool is the tool, but actually there is that flexibility.
Yeah. And another one on that list that you mentioned, Andrew, and I remember having this pain, especially when I picked up our first like large client as well, was invoicing and payment problems and delays in that. And it can be, lead comes through in, let's say, January, to make it easy, calendar maths, I'm terrible at dates. So let's say their lead comes in on the 1st of January. It might be 4 weeks until they sign. And then if you're on a really long payment terms and then they're late paying, that really messes around an agency's cash flow and its planning and hiring and looking after other tools and stuff like that. What are you guys doing at Verkeer that, has either been a pain point you've learned from or something that, maybe you've just resigned to yourselves is just part of the punches in the face on the way down sometimes?
One for us that is going to sound pretty basic, but weirdly had a massive impact, was adding in a section in our contracts for somebody to provide the billing contact and phone number. So often you go and you get your contract signed by like Mr. Marketing Director, and you then send your first invoice to them because that's your point of contact, and nobody pays. And it's because they look at it and go, oh, that's someone else's job. And they don't think about the fact it actually hasn't made it to that person. So we now, on a contract as a compulsory field, as you sign the contract, we need a name, a phone number, and an email address for who is receiving those invoices.
And I suppose the same thing goes for purchase orders or agreement numbers and things like that.
Exactly. Like, what else do you need to know for us to be able to charge you?
Yes. We'd like your money, please.
Yeah, basically. And then the other thing is like, be clear with your clients. I think we very aggressively don't chase money when it's the day-to-day team, because you risk making quite an awkward environment where you're like, person who's trying to build a brilliant relationship is there having to nag you for money, and like they're not paying out of their own pocket. It's their finance team that haven't done it. So don't put the pressure on the individual. Like, speak finance team to finance team like a real like operational business would. A lot of us as agencies are like 2 or 3 people initially, and then you grow and you keep acting in that way. Act like you have a massive in-house finance department. And then if you have to intervene and I have to send an email, I'm like, my finance department are putting pressure on me about this. And like, let's be honest, we don't have a finance department. I'm putting pressure on me about this. But like, that passing of responsibility really helps take the personal out of it. And generally you just get paid quicker.
And the thing is as well, if you don't, a bit like with the pain of you putting pressure on yourself or in an internal team, that isn't just because you want money. That's because you need the money most of the time in order to cash flow the next series of work. And if you're a smaller agency starting out, the generation of cash is essential in order to get to the next phase. If you're a larger agency, that could be the difference between salaries or taxes being paid and things like that. And it can be either end of the scale. It's not ideal. So I think the way you kind of solved that problem pretty good. If you're listening to this right now, which you bloody should be, purchase order, name, address, telephone number, email address, social security number, home address of the person that pays the bill, as many pieces of information as you can, because if you do have to chase for the money, don't chase your day-to-day contact because they'll not have a good relationship with you. But if you do need to chase the money, you're chasing the money from accounts payable at clientsname.com, and it's a little bit less faceless, it's a little bit more process-led. Speaking of chasing clients for money, I've noticed an awful lot. There's a clear split at the minute with the agencies I'm speaking to across the spectrum of size around kind of challenges in their client acquisition. So some agencies are closing a lot more leads than they had done previously, but they're getting a lot less leads than they have done previously. And then there's a few agencies that are saying, is it normal that this time of the year it's absolutely dead? What do you see in your sphere? Because I know that you work with niches inside the sector. And so what are you seeing at the minute? And, how have you ever kind of dealt with quiet times?
I always loathe to answer questions like this because I don't want to sound gloaty.
Here we go. Hang on a minute. There we go. Hannah's about to blow.
Right. What I would say is that Verkeer is a really fortunate agency. So a lot of you might not have heard of us. Actually, we don't do that much marketing. We don't really bother with our own website too much. We don't have a sales team. We rely on word of mouth and our networks. We're very fortunate in that, lots of our clients, if they leave their role, they take us on at their next company. And we've ended up with clients that we've got kind of 8 to 10 years worth of client relationship with them. So then, when they move, they take us with them. And then we grow like that. And it's led to us having some really great growth. So we grow about 20% each year stably, which is really where we're aiming to be. We don't want to double year on year because then that comes with all of the growing pains. So for us, that's enough. And I think in the quiet times, we focus on upsells. When you're relying on word of mouth through referral and all of that, you have such little control because it's not like you can pull a lever and suddenly get 6 more leads and everything's great. So it's scary in that sense. And I definitely wouldn't say every agency should try and replicate that. It just happens to be the position we're in and something we are going to fix at some point. But I would say from what we do when it's quiet is we sit and we go through all of our existing clients and go, what else could we do for them? What could we upsell? What fits right for these clients? And who did we speak to a year ago that we haven't got in touch with recently? And don't be afraid to kind of open those doors and keep those relationships going. I think that's what's probably most important.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noted as well is that it can be difficult to get past that first yes, which is, yes, we'll go ahead, but not the digital yes, which is the signature on the contract and those payment details and then the kickoff. What I always found works quite well for us when I learned this the hard way because it took a month to get someone to even have the initial kickoff meeting once. The first yes is, yes, we're going to go ahead. The second yes was, here's the contract signed. And the third yes was, we're in a contract in your first ever kind of onboarding meeting. The ease at which you can get those yeses and the quick get on how simple the sale has been. So how easy are you making it for them to understand what they're buying? And usually if they have to get sign off internally, they say yes, but they have to get someone else to sign off internally before they sign the contract and things like that. It could well be that you haven't made the proposal clear enough or the scope of work clear enough or the contract clear enough that these are the things that you're doing and the results that you're aiming for so that you kind of translate them into what the services actually deliver. As soon as I kind of start to translate the contracts and the scopes of work into, you're not buying the result of SEO and we'll do these things in order to get those results called SEO, that the contracts got signed a lot quicker. Are you a 20-page contractor or a 5-page contractor type agency?
We are, I believe it's a 10-page contract, but I would say that we have kind of nailed our sales process from proposal through to signature once we have the lead. And the reason for that is we aren't afraid of booking the next steps. So when we do a pitch, at the end of the pitch, we're like, great, thank you so much for your time. When should we get that call in to go through your feedback? And so in the pitch, we're booking a call for whether it's 3 days' time or a week's time, depending on the organization, is in the diary for when they're going to feed back to us. And we arrange it over a call because brutally, if they're going to reject you, they'll send an email before the call because they don't want to get on an awkward call if they don't have to. So that's a great way of kind of weeding people out quite quickly. And then when we do that call, if they say yes on the call, we are contract the same day sent to you, the same time the contract's sent, when is your onboarding meeting? Obviously, we need the contract signed before then. So how long is that going to take for you? And that makes them start committing to deadlines quite quickly. And I think we got our quickest yes ever, probably last month. And the feedback we got was, you're the only agency that did exactly what you said at the timings that you said and showed you could run a project. So like, yeah, promise timelines. I'm going to get you that deck on Tuesday. I'm going to have a call with you Wednesday, and then we're going to speak Friday and hit all the points. And you've demonstrated that you're reliable. And that's more powerful than any jazzy PowerPoint slide that says the same thing.
And this year has been absolute carnage in the industry. Loads of things have gone on, not just AI stuff, but there's been, across the world, there's been geopolitical changes and all sorts of horrible things that have happened. There's been technological changes outside of AI. There's societal changes in terms of financial health in the UK in particular, but I know it's the case in many other countries as well. What do you think 2024 is going to bring us in the industry? Yay! The only thing you can predict is uncertainty and taxes.
Yeah. And I think like that's probably for me the mindset shift that's made me enjoy agency. Like when you start working at an agency, or if you're not cut out for agency, you're like, oh my God, the roller coaster's so hard. It's so stressful and horrible. And then when you get into it, you're like, yeah, every roller coaster goes up and then it goes down and then it goes up again. So like, if you're expecting that, it's not as scary, is it? If you know there's going to be a drop. And I think like that's really how we're seeing 2024. I think we're going to see this continuation of like hesitancy to sign contracts and these longer sales cycles, both for us as an agency, but also for our clients. Like a lot of our clients are seeing drops in revenue because it's taking so long to convert rather than because the customers aren't there. I think we're going to keep seeing these trends. And actually the people that will do well are the people that are more lean into it and relax about it. Like be less obsessive about year on year and more look at the bigger picture, take your time, reassure and be that stable voice for your customers, your clients, and then you'll succeed, hopefully.
So to move on, I'm going to go through and give you some rapid fire, quick reaction questions for you. They're designed to get an and an so don't you worry. I know that there's one at least that will probably have been causing an argument in the agency because I only sent them round to you a few minutes before we did this. So, are you ready to go? Here we go. So, what is the worst piece of advice you've ever received about running an agency? And don't say it was from me.
Treat your team like your family. That is nonsense. I don't pay my family members to deliver something, and my family members, quite frankly, are not reliable. So, like, don't do it.
What's the first tool you ever used in SEO? It might not even exist now.
Ooh, Majestic.
Oh, it does exist. It's only getting better.
I was a little SEO link auditor.
That was it? Is that the job you got after faking it in a car park?
Yeah, I thought I was getting this really like jazzy creative marketing job. And instead, I dealt with a load of penguin issues because I was like, that was about when I started. And I audited all the sites.
I'll never forget the day that there was the first penguin update. We all woke up to an email from the MD of the agency I was working in at the time saying, please can everyone get in a little bit earlier than normal because we have a lot of things to clean up. If Verkeer were an animal, what animal would Verkeer be? And I know sounds like an interview question that you might get for a job, but I quite like this one.
Yeah, and this is the one we argued about in the office when we saw the questions, I'm not going to lie. So we settled on we'd be a chameleon because we adapt a lot and like we fit into our clients' ways of working. Like we're not one of those agencies with aggressive processes that we're like, this is how we work. Like we're pretty chill and we just go with the flow and make it easy for other people. So there were two other rejects. One was a hawk because precision, spots things from a great height, but then we thought maybe a bit screechy. And then the second one was a unicorn, but we agreed not to do that because we're not wankers. Sorry for swearing, ranking, but it was important. And the reason we wanted that was, did you know that the unicorn is the national animal of Scotland? And our CEO and founder is Scottish, so sounds like you need to come to Verkeer General Knowledge mornings where we do quiz questions.
So if there's one person in the general public, should we say, a famous person that was looking to move into agency land as a leader, Who do you think would make a really good agency leader?
I have decided to go for someone fictional, just to mess with you, really. But I would say James Bond. A bit of Sean Connery kind of vibes, yeah.
The Sean Connery style, then, because that would fit in with awards evenings. That would fit in with some of the schmoozing of clients that you have to do.
Yeah, sleek, doesn't panic, helps with the narratives.
Who would you not hire as an agency leader in the same kind of vein?
Ooh, you didn't warn me of that one, man, did you? So many secrets. Anyone in our current government? So quite a few there we could rule out pretty quick.
Final question. Are you going to stay in agency forever? I know this wasn't here. This wasn't in the list.
That is a big question. I want to say yes. I know even you personally, you're like, Hannah, agencies sometimes are dying. They're very stressful. I love that. I don't care. I want to run Verkeer forever, I think. It's fun, it's exciting, every day is different. I like the way it's challenging, so I think it would take a lot to get me to not be agency focused.
That's awesome. Hannah, thanks very much for riding the agency roller coaster with me on this fine recording pilot episode.
Yeah, this looks like a good point where I can summarize what's been said, what's been shared, and basically sign off today's episode. Hannah was kind enough to share the tools that she used. I wrote down Monday.com, LastPass, Dropbox, SERP Sketch. Then I also wrote down in terms of dealing with financial matters, you need to chase the right people for the money. Act like you have a big team when dealing with finances always. In terms of if you're using word of mouth marketing, it's a good way to grow together with clients because you're committed. So your success is their success and vice versa. And also be sure to schedule the next steps always, because this is work does magic into converting people into long-standing business relationships. Always communicate clearly with clients, deliver what you promised to deliver. In terms of what we expect from next year is more uncertainty, and those of us who are going to take the time, relax, see the big picture in terms of agencies will be able to sort of be that, something that will just keep you calm in the storm. So if you can be that for your clients, you will stand out. Yeah, and other stuff, just fun to rewatch. So I'm hoping our listeners will definitely rewatch all the insightful stuff that's been shared. This is it for today's episode of the SEO Agency Rollercoaster podcast. I want to thank Hannah for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Keep it will. You can do it like the Venice Film Festival, 7-minute long ovation. This whirlwind adventure is brought to you by SEO Ranking, the go-to SEO toolset for over 40,000 digital agencies worldwide. If you're ready to take your agency's SEO game to the next level, be sure to join the SEO Ranking family. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights, laughs, and all things SEO. This is Andrew Zarudny alongside Chris Simmance signing off from the SEO Agency Rollercoaster. Stay tuned for more episodes, and remember that in the world of SEO, the ride never truly ends.